What up, guys? Today I'm going to be talking about what I'm going to be playing at DLC Dallas. I'm going to be playing Green Steel. My list is a bit different than the standard list, and let's talk about why. All right, so here's the list. So we have stock 4 Diablo, 4 Robin Hood, 4 Bucky, 4 Ursula, 4 Diablo, like pretty stock stuff. The stuff that differentiates this list is Prince John's and Donald Duck's. Basically, the thought process is if you're ruining your own hand in order to beat your opponent, like basically you're emptying their hand and you're emptying your own hand at the same time, the person who's left with more cards that draw a card, right? Like a Diablo, a Donald Duck, a Prince John, or a Beast, well, has a much higher chance of winning. And so the thought process here is Donald Duck accompanied with Prince John and now 4 Sudden Chills allows you to have the first action with Donald Duck where you draw 2 cards and your opponent may draw a card, right? And 99% of the time they draw the card, and you can take advantage of that by having a Prince John, making him discard it, and just creating this engine that's kind of unbeatable, right? They draw an extra card, you always make them discard it, and you draw extra cards off of the Prince John, growing your board, dealing with their board, and eventually winning the game. And so the thought process behind this version of the deck is I want the most consistent version of the deck, because what we're trying to do is reach the most mathematically consistent version of the deck. Any problem that you could possibly have can be solved by making your opponent discard whatever that problem is. And so that's kind of the idea, right? If you look at this list, the songs, all 4 ofs except for Along Came Zeus, 2 Hidden Cove. So that means that there are Hidden Cove, Along Came Zeus, Prince John, and Flynn Rider are the only 2 ofs. The rest of the deck is all 4 ofs, right? What we're trying to do is maximize our, like, consistency, right? In getting similar games and being able to mulligan very, very aggressively. Right? So why am I not playing Grab Your Swords? Why am I not playing Tinkerbell? The thought process is once I get to 5 ink, I don't want to really ink anymore unless I am drawing above my means, or I can maybe play two things in one turn, right? Basically, that is card advantage on its own. If I don't have to ink a card to potentially draw a Tinkerbell and play it, that means like I essentially gave myself another card. And now that the deck is all 4 ofs, it's less likely to have cards that are situationally bad, right? And so Grab Your Sword is one of those cards. If you think about all the important matchups, it's really only good in the mirror match only if you draw it off the top. If it's in your opening hand, majority of the times it's going to be a dead card. And I know the classic argument is like, oh, you can just discard it with Diablo. That's if you're lucky. If you ever draw the second one, you're just looking at a really, really bad time, especially because 5 is at the top of your curve. And Robin Hood shift games are not going to happen as often. The other, some of the numbers that I think are important that I'm going to talk about is the Floodborn count. I don't think that you should be playing less than 20 Floodborn. In this version, we're playing 22. Remember, consistency, right? The curve is just the cleanest, right? We have 10 1-drops and just the perfect amount of 2s, right? We got 4 Buckies, 4 Ursula, 4 Sudden Chill. That's 12, right? Like perfect amount of 3s, 8 4-drops, and 8 5-drops, So what we're aiming to do is build the version that's going to mulligan the best, because we're gonna mulligan so aggressively. So the next part of this video, what I'm gonna show you guys is an Emerald Steel mulligan guide. All right, so I'm gonna explain how this works. It's gonna be in the description if you want access to it. So what this is a like priority list of what you want in your opening hands, right? And so if you look at for the mirror, right, if you're playing if you're playing this deck and you're playing against the mirror match, what would you want to prioritize the most? If you notice here, Bucky is number 1 across the board, because the idea is like if you make your opponent discard a card, that can solve all of your problems. That can solve all of your problems, and that's why Bucky is so insane, and that's why it's going to get that's why it's already gone, right? And didn't even need, it got eroded, right? So if you didn't know that, in August there will be a new version that you can play that's completely terrible, and you can Google that. So looking at the rest of this, so you know, Bucky is first priority, you know, Diablo is second and third, fourth is what, Robin Hood, and 6 is Strength of Raging Fire, and 7 is Hidden Cove. And so basically it's just telling you, hey, look, if you're playing against green steel, you need to be able to deal with someone else's Diablo, and or be able to get rid of a card, an action card, so you can shift your Diablo on turn 2, right? So that's kind of the thought process there. So this is free for anybody that wants to use it But now what we're going to do is we're going to do mulligan decisions, because with this deck, the game begins and ends in the mulligan. Oftentimes you can see how your deck is going to play out based off of the mulligan. And I will say that the skill in this deck is not when you have the nuts, which is Diablo on 1, Bucky on 2, shift Diablo. That is the nuts. If you have that, you should be winning like above 80% of your games against the entire format, right? It's the best thing you can be doing in the entire game. So what we're really trying to focus on when we're playing this deck is when we mulligan 5, 6, 7 cards and we end up with a hand that doesn't really work, but you figure out how to make it work. That is the skillful part of this deck. So the mulligan is really, it's extremely important that you get the mulligan right, because the majority of the games that you're going to lose are going to be because of this, because of not mulliganing properly. So this is something that you can practice, and you can watch this video over again to try and understand the decisions I'm making, so you can make the best possible decisions in whatever tournament that you end up playing next. All right, let's start off. So this hand, what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus on, if I was on the play against green steel, what would I be trying to prioritize, right? So looking at this hand, we have Diablo and we have Robin Hood. So if you were looking at the mulligan guide, what you can think about is like, what are those 7 cards that I'm prioritizing, and how likely am I going to keep some of these cards? So we know that Let the Storm Rage On is a good card in the matchup, but what you want to do is, you have enough action cards in your deck, you just want to get the main pieces, because you still have one more turn to draw any action spell, and so you don't mind just getting rid of the Let the Storm Rage On. You don't really need to hold on to the action spell in order to make your Diablo combo happen. What you want to be prioritizing here is I'm going to get rid of Let the Storm Rage On. I'm going to get rid of Ursula, Beast, and Prince John. And this is just maximizing our chance of hitting that crazy combo of Diablo on 1, Bucky on 2, Shift Diablo. This is maximizing it. But where is the backup that lies in this? We're keeping the Robin Hood because it doubles our chances of having one of the Shift packages. And we know that the Robin Hood package is good against steal matchups, right? So what think about here is like you want to have double your chances of having one of these combos, right? You can either have Robin Hood on 1, Bucky on 2, Shift Robin Hood, right? Or you can have the Diablo version. Obviously, the Diablo version is better, but you like in this hand you don't have that choice. But what you do have a choice is to double up on your chances of having one of the two best hands available to you. Maybe by not sacrificing this Robin Hood in order to maximize just the Diablo. So we're gonna mulligan this, and okay, and so this is what we ended up getting, but that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you ended up getting. The right mulligan is the right mulligan. All right. So never think about what the result that you got from your mulligan is, whether or not you got the perfect hand or not. I will say, so in this instance, you would think about, oh, am I supposed to play a 1-drop or am I not supposed to play a 1-drop? In this whole scenario, you can actually play the Diablo over the Robin Hood. But if you didn't have this strength, then I wouldn't even consider playing the Diablo. I would ink the Diablo and probably play the Robin Hood. The reason being because since you have the strength, you have a chance at still drawing the Diablo and Ursula Diabloing, discarding the Shift on turn 2. All right, so that was us on the play against green steel, and now we're gonna do it on the draw, and that doesn't really change much of anything except for maybe playing around Ursula, right? When you're on the draw, you could potentially get one of your cards taken from Ursula, so you kind of like one of the decisions that you would change is like, let's say you have the Shift Diablo package, maybe I wouldn't keep double songs, so I'm not like put in a weird position, you know? Okay, so new game. All right, so looking at this hand, we don't have Bucky, we do have an Ursula, and we're on the draw, right? So first comes to first, we're going to get rid of Sudden Chill, Along Came Zeus, and Strength of Raging Fire. Aladdin is garbage in the green steel matchup, so it's gone. And then you could consider keeping Ursula, but remember, Bucky is number 1. So I think that since you already have this package and you're going to be keeping 2 cards, I think that you decide to get rid of the Ursula and just keep this package and hope that you get the second best package in the second best Bucky Shift package in the game. So we're going to mulligan and see what we end up getting. Ends up being not that great, but we still have Robin Hood on 1 and Shift on 3, and then we have a bunch of Diablos that are available to us. And so yeah, so that is the demo for green steel. Next we will do red purple. So I'm going to be on the play against red purple, so let's see what our opening hand is there. So looking at this, I don't see any of the things that we're looking for in an opening hand. The most important card in this matchup is actually Bucky, right? In red purple, it's pretty much the most important card in every matchup, but it is even more important against red purple. And Ursula is not something that Ursula is decent and it's like good at a specific time, but there's nothing you rather do on turn 2 than play Bucky. Every single time you're going to play that Bucky, right? And so we're going to actually get rid of all 7. Flynn Rider's at the bottom of that list, right? You go look at it, it's 17. So we're definitely not keeping that. They don't even play items. And Donald Duck is Donald Duck's worst matchup is red purple, so we're not prioritizing Donald Duck at all. And even if it is good in the matchup, it's not in your opening. Like, you don't want to keep it in, prioritize it for your opening hand. So this is a straight mull to 7. I know it feels weird in your gut, like, oh my god, I have to mulligan 7, but think about the way that this deck is built. It is mathematically optimized for you to hit playable hands, and you just want to maximize your chance of having that nut draw, even if it means mulliganing 7. So this is the mulligan to 7. Not the greatest mulligan to 7, but remember, the thing about this deck is you can have free games if you do this, if you're this aggressive. And then the whole point of this deck is like the skillful part of this deck. Like, people misinterpret that this deck is not skillful at all, is to be able to play these hands well, right? So looking at this hand, there's no way I would play Diablo on turn 1, right? Because I don't have an action spell, and there's no chance of me shifting Diablo onto this. But Robin Hood is still live to shift. So I would probably ink the Diablo, play the Robin Hood, and go and continue playing this game. All right, so now we're gonna do red purple on the draw. So we'll start again, and we're looking at another hand. So when you think about red purple, Robin Hood is not as good in this matchup as Diablo is. Like, Robin Hood is on the weaker side, but this hand is really, really not good, right? Like, it's really not what you want to be doing. So even though Robin Hood isn't one of the high priorities, but we are thinking about mulliganing 6, I think that, and we're on the draw, like, I want to make sure I still have a 1-drop, and I don't want to gamble this Robin Hood. I'm going to get rid of everything but the Robin Hood. And here it is, right? We end up being able to play Robin Hood on 1, Bucky on 2, and shift Robin Hood. They have to discard a card, right? We could also take a gamble and play a Diablo on turn 1, but we do get to see an additional card. So if that card is Diablo, then you change up the play, and you're still in great shape, right? So, well, the next matchup we will do is blue-red. So we'll start off on the play against blue-red. And now there are different cards that are going to be higher priority. A great example is Aladdin is much better against the blue decks than it is any of the other decks, right? So let's start off and start looking at this hand. So Prince John is a decent card in this matchup, but we don't have an early shift. So I'm going to get rid of Prince John, Robin Hood, Donald Duck, 2 Beast, and I'm going to keep this package. Robin Hood is not a high priority, but you still want to be able to play the game. And if you're on the play and you play one drop Robin Hood, Bucky, Robin Hood on 3, that's still a fantastic start, and it's going to be hard for even a deck like blue-red, which is good against shifted Robin Hood, to still beat, you know. So we're going to mulligan those, and this is the hand that we're going to be left with. So in this hand, I would definitely still play the Diablo on 1 instead of the Robin Hood, because you have this Let the Storm Rage on, which is not going to do pretty much anything, right? So moving on to blue-red on the draw. So here's a fresh new hand, and this hand has a lot more cards that we can potentially keep. So since we have the Diablo, I don't feel like it's necessary for us to keep this Robin Hood. So I'm gonna get rid of this Robin Hood, get rid of this Ursula. I'm gonna get rid of this Along Came Zeus. I'm gonna get rid of this Ursula, and I think I'm gonna keep this Sudden Chill. Sudden Chill is absolutely phenomenal against the blue-red strategy, but also it's an inkable action spell that if I do hit the Diablo, it ends up putting me in a great spot. So we're gonna mulligan like this, and this is what we end up hitting. So Sudden Chill and Ursula, obviously a combo and something that you can potentially pull off, right? And so with this hand, I'm still going to try and make Diablo happen. And so I'd probably ink a Diablo, play a Diablo, and continue playing my hand. And then second on the block is probably an Ursula. All right, so those are the three main matchups, and I just wanted to give you oversight on how I'm thinking about it. If you have any questions, please leave a comment, and feel free to leave specific scenarios. I'd be happy to think them through and give you what I would do in to mulligan and play that hand out, right? And so remember, this deck is very skill intensive. It's just like reverse skill intensive. When the stuff is not going right and you don't have the nuts, you're going to be able to like you figuring out how to win those games is the difference maker with this deck. Because anybody can win with that nuts. It's one of the best starters of all time. So thank you so much for watching. Good luck in Dallas if you're going, and good luck in your set championships, and I will see you guys next time. Thank you.